A father left his little boy on a cold bench. The boy waited for hours. He believed his daddy was coming back, but he wasn't. A stranger found him just before dark. What happened next changed everything. But first, tell us in the comments where you're watching from right now. The sun was going down at Edge Hill bus station. Orange light covered everything like warm paint. On a long bench near the corner sat a tiny boy. His name was Micah. He was only 3 years old. His small hand held a brown teddy bear tight against his chest. One of his legs had a metal brace on it. You could see it under his gray sock. The brace helped him walk, but it made his leg feel heavy. Micah hadn't moved for a very long time. He just sat there, watching, waiting. Big buses came. People got on. People got off. The buses left again. And still, Micah sat today. Every few minutes, he whispered the same words. "Daddy's coming back soon. Right, Teddy?" The bear didn't answer, but Micah believed it anyway. What Micah didn't know was the truth. His daddy wasn't coming back. Not today. Not ever. Earlier that same afternoon, everything had been different. Micah's father, Derek Miles, had driven them to the bus station in his old silver car. The back seat was messy. Papers everywhere. Empty bottles on the floor. Tools scattered around. Derek turned off the car. Then he just sat there, silent, staring at the steering wheel. A whole minute passed. Finally, he turned to look at his son. "Micah," Derek said. He tried to smile, but it looked wrong. "You like buses, don't you?" Micah's face lit up. "Yes, Daddy." "Want to go for a ride? Maybe see some tall buildings." The little boy giggled. He held up his teddy bear. "Teddy too." "Yeah, buddy," Derek said quietly. "Teddy too." But inside, Derek's stomach felt sick, like he'd swallowed stones. He wasn't taking Micah anywhere. He had already made his decision. 2 nights ago, he decided what he had to do. Derek had sat beside Micah's bed that night, watching him sleep. The leg brace was on the floor beside the bed, and Derek heard a voice in his head. His wife's voice. "Naomi," she used to say. "He didn't ask for this life. Derek, you have to protect him." But Naomi was gone now. She died the day Micah was born. Something went wrong during the birth. The doctors said Micah's leg got hurt because he didn't get enough air. Naomi had lost too much blood. The doctors made Derek choose. Save a mother or save the baby. Derek chose a baby. And Naomi died. He never forgave himself for that choice. Every time he looked at Micah's leg brace, he remembered. Every single day. So when Derek led Micah to the bench that afternoon, he said softly, "Wait right here, okay? Daddy's going to buy our tickets." Micah nodded. His big brown eyes trusted completely. "Okay, Daddy." Derek turned around. He walked toward the ticket counter. But he didn't stop there. He kept walking. Past the counter. Past the doors. Out into the parking lot. He didn't look back. Not even once. Hours went by. The sun moved across the sky. People came and left. The station got quieter. Lights started turning on one by one. Micah stayed on the bench, waiting. His little legs dangled off the edge. His teddy bear stayed tucked under his arm. The last bus of the day pulled in. Route 17. Its big headlights cut through the golden evening light. The driver stepped down from the bus. His name was Elliot Grant. He wore a bus driver's uniform, but something about him seemed different. His shirt was fancy, expensive. His shoes were shiny and new. He looked like someone who shouldn't be driving a bus at all. Elliot had tired eyes, sad eyes, the kind of eyes that had seen too much pain. All the passengers got off the bus. Elliot was about to close the doors when he saw him, the little boy, still sitting alone. Elliot frowned. He walked over slowly. "Hey there, little man," he said gently. "Where are your parents?" Micah hugged his bear tighter. Daddy went to buy tickets. Elliot looked around. No suitcases. No bags. No adult anywhere nearby. Just an empty juice box on the ground near the boy's feet. And a child who had been waiting too long. "How long ago did your daddy leave?" Elliot asked. Micah looked at the big clock on the wall. He pointed. When the sun was really big. That was hours ago. Elliot's throat felt tight. He crouched down to be at eye level with the boy. Micah's eyes were calm, brown, tired. They reminded Elliot of someone. His own son, Theo. Theo had died 2 years ago. A terrible sickness took him. No amount of money could save him. And Elliot had a lot of money, more than most people could imagine. But money couldn't fix everything. It couldn't bring back the dead. Do you know your name? Elliot asked softly. Micah. Micah Miles. And your daddy's name? Derek Miles. Elliot's voice shook a little. Okay, Micah, let's find someone to help us while we wait. Okay. Elliot took Micah's small hand. They walked to the ticket counter together. Micah's brace squeaked with each step. The woman behind the counter looked up. Has anyone bought tickets under the name Derek Miles today? Elliot asked. The woman checked her computer. She shook her head. No, sir. Nobody with that name. Elliot felt something heavy drop in his chest. A mix of anger and sadness. He knew what had happened. He'd seen it before. A parent who couldn't handle life anymore. A parent who just walked away. He pulled out his phone, called the police, but his hand was shaking. He couldn't stop staring at the little boy beside him. The irony hit him hard. Elliot Grant was rich, very rich. He'd spent years giving money to children's hospitals, helping sick kids. And here he was, standing next to a child that no amount of money could fix. Not really. Micah tugged on Elliot's sleeve. His voice was tiny. Mister, is Daddy mad at me? Elliot crouched down again. He swallowed the lump in his throat. No, buddy, he's not mad. He's just lost right now. Sometimes grown-ups get lost. Micah nodded slowly. He believed every word. His teddy bear stayed tucked close, like it could make everything okay. By the time the police arrived, Micah had fallen asleep in the waiting area. His head rested on Elliot's jacket. One officer walked up to Elliot. He whispered, We found the car, near the old bridge. Empty. Elliot looked out the window. The sunset was turning into night. Dark blue and purple painted the sky. He didn't know why, but he couldn't leave. He couldn't walk away from this boy. Maybe because he saw something in Micah's face. That look, the silent waiting for someone who would never return. Elliot touched the teddy bear still in Micah's arms. He whispered, You don't deserve this, kid. A police officer asked, So, can you stay until Child Services gets here? Yes, Elliot said without thinking. He sat beside Micah until the very last bus left. The lights dimmed. The station became silent. And Elliot stayed. He didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just about helping a stranger's child. This was the beginning of something bigger, something that would change both their lives forever. This was the start of his redemption. What happens next? Will Elliot walk away like everyone else? Or will he do something nobody expects? Keep reading to find out. Morning came slowly. The bus station looked gray and cold. Micah was still asleep on the bench. His tiny chest moved up and down. The teddy bear was still in his arms. Elliot hadn't left, not even for a minute. His fancy suit jacket covered Micah like a blanket. The police had promised a search for Derek Miles, but Elliot could tell they'd given up already. Just another parent who disappeared when life got too hard. That's what they thought. A woman walked into the station. She carried a clipboard and wore a tired smile. She was from Child Services. Sir, thank you for staying, she said softly. We'll take care of him now. Elliot nodded, but something inside him didn't want to let go. He'd seen what happened to kids in the system. Move from place to place. Never really belonging anywhere. He looked down at Micah's peaceful face. Can I visit him? Elliot asked. Of course, the woman said, but her voice was empty, like a promise nobody keeps. But Elliot wasn't like other people. He kept his promises. 2 days later, Elliot walked into the foster center. It was a clean place, but it felt sad somehow. Too quiet. Micah sat at a small table. He had a paper in front of him and a stubby pencil in his hand. His leg brace squeaked when he shifted in his chair, but he didn't seem to notice. When Elliot knelt beside him, Micah's face lit up like sunshine. Bus man, he said with a big smile. Elliot smiled back. You remember me. Micah pointed at his paper. Look, I'm making numbers. At first, it just looked like scribbles. circles and loops everywhere. But then Elliot looked closer. The circles were perfect, each one divided into sections like a pie, and beside them were tiny numbers, 7s and 3s, over and over again. "What is this?" Elliot asked. Micah tapped the page with his finger. "Teddy said if you cut the big circle into 3 pieces, you get forever 7s. See?" Elliot blinked. He stared at the paper. "You mean repeating decimals?" Micah shrugged. "Maybe." A woman who worked at the center laughed softly. "Has been doing that since he arrived. Doesn't talk much, but give him numbers and he won't stop." Elliot felt his heart skip. This boy was 3 years old. He could barely speak in full sentences. But he was writing math problems that some adults couldn't understand. Something shifted inside Elliot, like a quiet thread tying them together. That night, Elliot called his lawyer. "Find Derek Miles," he said firmly. It took 1 week. They found Derek in a cheap motel outside of town. He looked terrible. Thin, tired. His eyes were empty. When Elliot walked into the motel room, Derek's first words were angry. "You here to judge me, rich man? You think I don't know what I did?" Elliot didn't yell. He kept his voice calm. "You left a child at a bus stop, Derek. A child who can barely walk." Derek slammed his beer can on the table. "You think I didn't try? You think I didn't love him? That kid reminds me every single day what I lost. Naomi's blood was on that hospital floor. They made me choose. I chose him. And she died. Do you know what that does to a man?" Elliot's jaw tightened. "Yes, I do." Derek looked up, confused. Elliot's eyes were sad but strong. "My son died, Derek. A sickness I couldn't cure. Not with all my money. I would give everything I have to hear him call me dad again. And you? You had that. And you threw it away." For the first time, Derek's anger broke. He slumped into his chair. His hands shook. "I didn't know what else to do." "Then loan," Elliot said coldly, "because he's still waiting for you. Even now, he thinks you're coming back." Derek couldn't look at him. His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm not the man he needs." Elliot paused. A long, heavy silence filled the room. "No," he finally said. "You're not, but I can be." 1 month later, there was a court hearing. Derek sat quietly in the back. He signed the papers without saying a word. He gave up his rights as a father. Elliot didn't feel happy. He just felt responsible. Micah sat beside Elliot in the courtroom. He drew invisible lines on his palm, whispering numbers under his breath. He didn't understand what was happening, but he felt safe next to the busman. Afterward, Elliot took Micah home. Elliot's house was huge, a mansion. It had tall ceilings and shiny marble floors. For 2 years, it had been silent, full of sadness, full of memories of Theo. But now, small sounds filled the empty spaces. The squeak of Micah's leg brace on the floor, the clatter of crayons rolling off the table, the soft hum of Micah counting things under his breath. Every evening, Elliot sat with Micah at the big dining table. He gave him puzzles, math problems, shape games, and Micah solved them faster than the computer. Fractions, patterns, even hard arithmetic. It all came to him easily, like breathing. One night, Elliot asked, "How do you know all this, Micah?" The boy looked up from his drawing. "I see patterns, like music in my head." Elliot stared at him. His own son, Theo, had struggled with math. He'd needed help with simple addition. But Micah was different, special in a way nobody expected. "You're something amazing, kid," Elliot whispered. Micah smiled. "Teddy says I'm just me." And somehow, that was perfect. One evening, Elliot had an idea. He drove Micah back to the bus station. The same bench, the same orange light from the setting sun. Micah limped forward slowly. His brace squeaked with each step. He held his teddy bear in both hands. Then, gently, he placed it on the bench. "What are you doing?" Elliot asked softly. Micah looked up at him. "So other kids don't feel lonely." Elliot's throat tightened. He felt tears burn behind his eyes. "You're sure?" Micah nodded. "Teddy's brave. He can wait." Elliot crouched down. He pulled the little boy into his arms. For the first time in 2 years, the emptiness inside him felt quiet, peaceful. He wasn't just saving Micah. Micah was saving him too. A few weeks later, Elliot took Micah to the hospital, not because he was sick, but because Elliot wanted to make sure he was healthy, strong. The doctors ran tests, brain scans, physical exams, everything. Then one doctor pulled Elliot aside. His face looked serious. "Mr. Grant, we found something unusual." Elliot's heart dropped. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," the doctor said quickly. "But Micah's brain, it's extraordinary. The areas connected to logic and patterns are lighting up like we've never seen before, especially in a child this young." Elliot stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means he's gifted, possibly a mathematical savant. His mind works differently than most people. He can see connections others can't." Elliot sat down slowly. He looked through the window at Micah. The little boy was humming, drawing shapes in the air with his finger. The world called him disabled, broken. But his mind was a miracle. That night, Elliot went through the box of things Child Services had saved. Micah's clothes, his juice box, and a folded envelope. It was from Derek. Inside was a note. The handwriting was messy, uneven, like it had been written in a hurry, all through tears. It said, "If anyone finds him, tell him I couldn't be the man he deserved, but maybe the man who can love him right will find him." Elliot read it over and over. His hands shook. Tears rolled down his face. Derek hadn't left out of cruelty. He'd left out of guilt, fear, self-hatred. He thought he was doing the right thing, giving Micah a chance at a better life. Elliot drove to the motel parking lot that night. He sat in his car under a streetlight, reading that note again and again, wondering if broken men like them could ever be forgiven. When he got home, Micah was awake, sitting by the window, looking at the stars. "How many stars are there, Micah?" Elliot asked quietly. The boy turned around. "Too many to count, but I try every night." Elliot smiled, a real smile. "Then keep trying, buddy." He knew right then. This was the real shock, the miracle hidden in the tragedy. The boy the world abandoned had a mind that could change it. The final chapter awaits. What will Micah's future hold? And will Derek ever find peace? The ending will leave you speechless. Life in the big mansion changed slowly. Day by day, week by week, Micah's brace still squeaked on the marble floors. But now, those sounds didn't feel lonely anymore. They felt like home. Every morning, Micah sat at the breakfast table with his coloring books. But he never colored inside the lines. Instead, he drew equations, shapes, patterns that looked like music frozen on paper. Elliot would sit across from him, drinking coffee, watching, amazed. "What are you making today?" Elliot asked one morning. Micah didn't look up. "A bridge." "A bridge?" "Yeah, but not with wood, with numbers. See?" He pointed at his drawing. Lines connected dots. Each dot had a number. If you follow the pattern, it never falls down. Elliot leaned closer. It was a structural equation, the kind engineers use. But Micah was only 3 years old. "Where did you learn this?" Elliot asked softly. Micah shrugged. "I just see it. Like when you close your eyes and remember your favorite song. It's just there." Elliot felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just talent. This was something extraordinary, something the world needed to see. A few weeks later, a reporter from the local newspaper called. Someone had told them the story. A rich man adopting a disabled child from a bus station. They wanted to write about it. At first, Elliot said no. He didn't want attention. This wasn't about fame. It was about Micah. But then he thought about it differently. Maybe people needed to hear this story. Maybe someone else out there felt hopeless. Like Derek had. Like Elliot once did. Maybe this story could change someone's heart. So he said yes. The reporter came to the house. She was kind, gentle. She asked Elliot questions. Then she talked to Micah. "Hi, Micah, what do you like to do?" she asked. "Count things," Micah said simply, "and draw patterns." "Can you show me?" Micah pulled out his notebook. Page after page of perfect circles, spirals, fractals, numbers arranged in ways that looked like art. The reporter's eyes went wide. Did someone teach you this? No, Micah said. It's just how I think. She looked at Elliot. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. This child is a genius. Elliot nodded. I know. A week later, the story ran in the newspaper. The headline said, Bus Stop Boy finds a home and a future. It told the whole story. How Derek abandoned Micah. How Elliot found him. How the boy everyone thought was broken turned out to be brilliant. The article spread fast. People shared it online, commented, cried. Some people sent letters to Elliot's house, thanking him, calling him a hero. But Elliot didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a father. Finally, one afternoon, a man showed up at the front gate. He wore a baseball cap pulled low. His hands were in his pockets. He looked thin, tired. It was Derek. The security guard called Elliot. Sir, there's someone here asking to see you. Elliot's heart pounded. He walked to the gate slowly. When he saw Derek standing there, he didn't know what to feel. Anger? Sadness? Pity? Derek spoke first. His voice cracked. I saw the article. I saw the picture of him. Elliot said nothing. He just waited. I'm not here to take him back, Derek said quickly. I know I don't deserve that. I needed to see that is okay. Elliot crossed his arms. He is. No thanks to you. Derek nodded. Tears filled his eyes. I know what I did. I live with it every single day. He paused. But I also read what the doctors said. About his brain. About how smart he is. Is extraordinary, Elliot said firmly. Derek smiled sadly. Naomi would have been so proud. His voice broke. I ruined everything. I let my guilt destroy me. And I almost destroyed him too. For a long moment, neither man spoke. The wind blew leaves across the driveway. Then Elliot said something he never expected to say. You did one thing right, Derek. Derek looked up, confused. You left him where someone could find him. You could have left him anywhere. In the woods. In an alley. But you didn't. You left him at a bus station. Where people were. Where someone like me could find him. Derek's face crumpled. He covered his mouth with his hand. Sobbing. I don't forgive you, Elliot said quietly. But I understand you. And maybe one day, Michael will too. Derek wiped his eyes. Can I see him? Just once. Elliot thought about it, long and hard. Then he nodded, one time, from a distance. He doesn't need to know who you are. Not yet. They walked to the backyard. Michael was sitting on the grass, drawing with chalk on the stone path. Numbers and shapes covered the ground like a colorful maze. Derek stopped. His breath caught in his throat. He's so big now. Is happy, Elliot said. Derek watched his son, silent, tears streaming down his face. Thank you, he whispered, for being the man I couldn't be. Then he turned and walked away, slowly, without looking back. Elliot watched him go. He didn't know if Derek would ever find peace, but at least he'd seen the truth. Michael was loved, safe, thriving. That night, Michael woke up from a bad dream. He called out softly, Elliot. Elliot came into the room immediately. I'm here, buddy. What's wrong? Micah's eyes were wet. I had a dream about my daddy, the one before you. Elliot sat on the edge of the bed. His heart ached. What happened in the dream? He said he was sorry, and then he walked away again. Micah's voice was so small. Why did he leave me? Elliot didn't lie. He'd never lied to this child. Because he was scared? Micah, sometimes people get so scared and so sad that they don't know how to love anymore. It wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. Do you think he loved me? Micah asked. Yes, Elliot said honestly. I think he loved you so much that it hurt. And he didn't know what to do with that hurt. Micah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Do you love me? Elliot's throat tightened. More than anything in this world. Micah smiled. A real, peaceful smile. Then I'm okay. He closed his eyes and fell back asleep. Elliot stayed beside him, watching him breathe, feeling grateful for every single moment. Months passed. Then a year. Micah grew taller, stronger. His mind grew even sharper. A university research team reached out. They wanted to study how his brain worked, to understand his gift. Elliot agreed, but only if it helped Micah, only if it helped other kids like him. The researchers were amazed. Micah could solve problems that most adults couldn't. He saw the world in patterns, in connections, in beauty that others missed. One scientist said, "This child could change mathematics, engineering, maybe even the world." But to Elliot, he was just Micah, his son. One evening, they went back to the bus station, the same bench where it all started. The sun was setting. Orange light painted the sky. Micah sat down. He looked at the spot where he'd waited so long ago. "I don't remember much from that day," he said quietly. "That's okay," Elliot said. "But I remember you," Micah continued. "I remember thinking you looked like an angel." Elliot laughed softly. "I'm no angel, kid." "You saved me," Micah said. He looked up at Elliot with those big brown eyes. "You gave me a home. You gave me love. That's what angels do." Elliot felt tears roll down his cheeks. He didn't try to hide them. "You saved me too, Micah. You gave me a reason to keep going." They sat together, father and son, not by blood, but by choice, by love. And in that moment, everything made sense. The pain, the loss, the abandonment, it all led to this. To them. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us walk away. But sometimes, when we need it most, a stranger becomes family. Derek walked away because he was broken. But Elliot stayed because love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Michael was called disabled, abandoned, forgotten, but he became a miracle. Proof that the world's labels don't define us. That our worth isn't measured by what we lack, but by what we give. And Elliot learned that redemption doesn't come from erasing the past. It comes from choosing love in the present. Together, they found what they both lost. Hope, purpose, home. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's remind the world that love can come from the most unexpected places, that kindness still exists, and that sometimes the people who save us are the ones we never saw coming. Drop a comment and tell us, what time is it where you are? And have you ever been saved by a stranger's kindness? Subscribe for more real, emotional stories that prove miracles happen every single day. Because in a world that can feel cold and dark, love is still the greatest power of all.